The credential delusion, why your degrees are holding you back. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Dr. Carmen Johnson, a revolutionary thinker whose work has fundamentally challenged everything we thought we knew about expertise and knowledge acquisition. For over 20 years, Dr. Johnson has been dismantling the sacred cows of our credentialing systems, forcing institutions to confront uncomfortable truths about how we evaluate human potential. Her research hasn't just filled academic journals, it has liberated countless professionals from the tyranny of paper credentials and transformed organizations that had been suffocating under the weight of outdated hiring practices. Dr. Johnson isn't just a scholar, she's an intellectual warrior fighting for a world where true ability trumps pedigree. Today, I want to share with you some profound insights from my conversation with Dr. Johnson that I believe will fundamentally change how you think about expertise, credentials, and the pursuit of knowledge. We live in a world obsessed with credentials, master's degrees, PhDs, certifications, professional licenses. We've created elaborate systems to signal expertise. We've built entire industries around the pursuit of these credentials, and we've constructed social hierarchies based on who has them and who doesn't. But what if I told you that our fixation on formal credentials is actively undermining true expertise? What if our current approach to identifying and developing knowledge isn't just slightly flawed, but fundamentally broken at its core? This is the counterintuitive idea at the heart of Dr. Johnson's work. And it's what I want to explore with you today. Let's start with a simple question. What makes someone an expert? Take a moment to think about it. If you're like most people, your answer probably includes some combination of formal education, years of experience, and professional recognition. These are the traditional markers of expertise, the things we've been taught to look for, the things we've been taught to pursue. But Dr. Johnson's research suggests that these markers are often poor predictors of actual expertise. In fact, they can sometimes be dangerously misleading. Consider this finding from her research. When organizations were asked to identify their top performers in complex problem solving roles, less than 40% of those individuals had the highest formal credentials in their departments. Yet they consistently outperformed their more credentialed colleagues. This isn't an isolated finding. Study after study has shown weak correlations between formal credentials and actual performance in complex domains. The person with the most impressive resume isn't necessarily the one with the most valuable insights. So, what's going on here? Why does our credentialing system so often fail to identify true expertise? Dr. Johnson argues that we've confused the map for the territory. We've mistaken the symbols of knowledge for knowledge itself. Think about it this way: a medical degree doesn't make someone a good doctor. It certifies that they've completed a particular educational program. It's a proxy for knowledge, not knowledge itself. The same is true for law degrees, engineering certifications, and virtually every other credential. Now, I'm not suggesting that formal education is worthless. Far from it. What I am suggesting is that we've overvalued credentials and undervalued other, often more important, aspects of expertise. So, what are these other aspects? What makes someone truly knowledgeable in ways that matter? Dr. Johnson's research points to three key elements that are often overlooked in our credential obsessed culture. First, there's tacit knowledge, the kind of knowledge that can't be easily articulated or taught in a classroom. It's the knowledge that comes from direct experience, from trial and error, from immersion in a particular domain. It's knowing when to break the rules. It's recognizing patterns that aren't in the textbooks. It's having a feel for what works and what doesn't. Second, there's integrative thinking, the ability to connect ideas across domains, to see relationships that others miss, to apply insights from one field to problems in another. This kind of thinking rarely develops in specialized educational programs that focus narrowly on a single discipline. And third, there's adaptive expertise, the ability to apply knowledge in novel situations, to recognize when established approaches aren't working, and to develop new approaches on the fly. This is fundamentally different from what Dr. Johnson calls routine expertise, the ability to apply well established procedures to familiar problems. These elements of expertise aren't captured by our credentialing systems. They don't show up on resumes, they don't fit neatly into job descriptions, but they're often what separates truly exceptional performers from merely competent ones. Let me share a striking example from Dr. Johnson's research. She studied a large technology company that was struggling with a critical product launch. The company had assembled a team of highly credentialed engineers and designers, all with advanced degrees from prestigious universities. Despite their impressive pedigrees, the team was 6 months behind schedule and millions over budget. In desperation, the company brought in a consultant, someone with far fewer formal credentials than anyone on the team. This consultant had never completed college. He had no engineering degree. On paper, he looked vastly underqualified compared to the existing team. Yet within 3 weeks, this consultant had identified critical flaws in the team's approach and proposed solutions that not only got the project back on track, but actually improved the final product. How? Through a combination of tacit knowledge gained from years of hands on experience, integrative thinking that connected insights from multiple domains, and adaptive expertise that allowed him to approach familiar problems in new ways. This story isn't an anomaly. It's a pattern that repeats across industries and domains, and it points to a fundamental problem with how we think about expertise. We've created systems that prioritize what's easy to measure over what actually matters. We credential people based on their ability to pass standardized tests and complete standardized programs, not on their ability to solve real world problems or generate valuable insights. The consequences of this misalignment are profound. At the individual level, it leads people to pursue credentials that may not actually make them more effective in their chosen domains. At the organizational level, it leads to hiring and promotion practices that overlook truly exceptional talent. And at the societal level, it leads to a misallocation of resources and opportunities. Dr. Johnson tells the story of a hospital that was struggling with patient satisfaction scores. They hired a renowned consultant with multiple advanced degrees in healthcare administration to solve the problem. After months of analysis and implementation of best practices, patient satisfaction barely improved. Then something unexpected happened. A janitor who had worked at the hospital for 15 years approached the administration with a simple observation. Patients were complaining because they felt ignored during shift changes. He suggested a simple protocol for how staff should communicate during these transitions. When implemented, patient satisfaction scores rose dramatically. This janitor had no formal training in healthcare administration. He had no credentials that would suggest expertise in patient satisfaction, but he had something more valuable: years of direct observation, a deep understanding of the hospital's operations, and the ability to see patterns that the credentialed experts had missed. But there's an even deeper problem here. Our fixation on formal credentials doesn't just fail to identify true expertise, it actively undermines its development. When we tell people that expertise comes from formal education and credentials, we're sending a dangerous message. We're suggesting that knowledge is something that's bestowed by authorities rather than something that's actively constructed through experience and reflection. We're encouraging a passive approach to learning rather than an active one. Real expertise isn't about accumulating facts or techniques, it's about developing judgment, it's about knowing what questions to ask. It's about recognizing when established approaches aren't working and having the confidence to try something new. These capabilities don't develop through passive learning, they develop through active engagement with real problems. They develop through trial and error. They develop through reflection on experience. Yet, our educational and professional development systems often discourage exactly these kinds of activities. They reward compliance over creativity, certainty over curiosity, and risk avoidance over experimentation. Dr. Johnson's work suggests that we need a fundamental shift in how we think about expertise and its development. We need to move away from credential based models toward performance based ones. We need to create environments that foster the development of tacit knowledge, integrative thinking, and adaptive expertise. And we need to recognize and reward these capabilities when we see them, regardless of whether they come packaged with impressive credentials. This shift won't be easy. Our current approaches are deeply entrenched in our educational institutions, our hiring practices, our professional licensing systems, and our cultural narratives about success and achievement. But the potential benefits are enormous. Imagine a world where people are recognized and rewarded for what they can actually do, not just for the credentials they've accumulated. Imagine organizations that can identify and develop talent based on capabilities that actually matter. Imagine educational systems that focus on developing judgment and creativity, not just on transmitting facts and techniques. This is the world that Dr. Johnson's work points toward. And it's a world that I believe is worth fighting for. So I challenge you today, look beyond the degrees, look beyond the certificates, look for the wisdom that comes from deep experience, from crossing boundaries, from adapting to new challenges. And when you find that wisdom, value it regardless of the credentials attached to it. If you're in a position to hire or promote, have the courage to look beyond traditional markers of expertise. If you're a leader, create environments where people can develop the kinds of knowledge that really matter. And if you're someone who's been held back by lack of credentials, take heart. The world is slowly waking up to the reality that true expertise comes in many forms. The future belongs not to those with the most impressive diplomas, but to those with the most valuable insights. It's time we built a world that recognizes this truth. Thank you.